Call of the Void contains strong language and possible trigger warnings and is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Deacon.
Hi, I'm Jack.
And welcome to Call of the Void, a podcast about all things weird and macabre. This week is a bit of a doozy.
To say the fucking least.
So, I don't know how many of you out there know what the Momo-chan thing is. But it was originally a thing, like a creepypasta, where basically somebody found like a phone number of like, it was like a Mexican phone number or something, and if you called it, then this like Momo thing that was the scary face, like with the big bug eyes and the weird smile, that like it would come for you and blah blah blah. And it was a sculpture that somebody made. Like it's literally all it was a sculpture.
Isn't it like, wasn't the artist Japanese?
Yeah. But it became like this huge thing and it kind of blew up. Mm-hmm. And then people were making video games about Momo.
Really? Okay, so you see, you know more of the technical shit about it. I've never heard of this thing until literally these past, like, few weeks where, like, all of a sudden this was, you know, a huge thing and, you know...
Yeah, so, I mean, the only reason that I know so much is because, like, it was stupid as fuck, and I was like, okay... But
I know so much because it's stupid.
Yeah, like, okay, so there was, I watch a lot of, like, people who, like, especially on, like, Twitch and YouTube and stuff, who, like, play shovelware games or dumb iPhone games or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this one in particular... with Momo, like, they have a bunch of them, like, really weird, like, game jam games, and there's a bunch of them on Steam, like, and they're all awful. They're all really bad.
It can't be worse than Jeff the Killer. Oh yeah, I went there. Shots fired.
They're pretty bad. Like, there's some pretty bad games out there. But, like, people were making these video games and everything else, and then it kind of died down. Like, the hype kind of died as far as, like, the whole Momo thing went. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, like, literally out of left field, we suddenly got this Momo challenge thing on YouTube.
Anything that has the word challenge next to it is often really dumb. Like,
yeah, so...
Yeah.
It popped up on YouTube. People started saying that, like, YouTube Kids had this video of Momo that would pop up, and it had, like, this weird music in the background. It'd be like, kill your family and stuff. And YouTube says that they have no kind of data about this happening on YouTube Kids. They have no analytics about this happening. Like, this wasn't a thing that was popping up on YouTube Kids. But they swore up and down that it was. Like, parents, and it was a thing that kind of started spreading around Facebook and all of that. And, of course, because it's the internet, mm-hmm. When it started spreading around, people started making actual videos that followed the formula.
But, I mean, here's the thing. Like, the idea that people would use, like, kids' channels to hide, like, a creepy thing or ARG, like, that's not that's not totally unheard of. Like, I forget what it was called, but there was this weird
Finger family?
Yeah, Finger Family that, like, makes no sense and had no, like, real, like, plot or anything, but, like, it presented itself as a kid's thing with, like, finger puppets, and it just
but
wasn't.
It was, well, they also had, like, the like, guy who talked that was, like, his eyes and his mouth moving, but, like, the rest of the face was, like, the
guy?
cracked, like, yeah. It was, like, a cracked doll face or whatever.
Yeah.
That was a thing, and it kept being, like, make sure you tie your running shoes or whatever.
Which I made a reference to one of our episodes. But
yeah, like, that was, like, people have, like, a theory, like, it's an ARG thing where, like, it's like an AI that's trying to learn how to whatever. It's really dumb, but yeah, it was like an actual ARG thing, and that that I can solidly say it's not a thing that, like, is unheard of, right?
Yeah.
And that was a thing that got mistakenly put on mistakenly, air quotes, put on YouTube Kids. They did it on purpose, but like, that was a thing that got put on YouTube Kids, and it was a thing that scared a lot of children, and it was like that. So yes, you're right, it's not a thing that's completely unheard of.
Yeah.
However, this is a very obvious thing that they curate their stuff for YouTube Kids, and they've gotten a lot more strict since the whole Finger Family fiasco.
Which they should.
Where they're, like, looking at these things, and at any point, if they had seen that scary ass looking face, and anything that kind of said kill your family, like, they would have been like, nah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, okay, so, like, the difference between this and, like, Finger Family, like, don't hug me, I'm scared. At first glance, you might think, because of, like, the colorful puppets and the way that it's presented, oh, this is a kid's thing. But, like, you watch 2 seconds of it and you realize, oh, this is not a kid's thing, and it's this weird, trippy, like, thing that, you know, is telling this story or whatever. But, like, you know, like, with Momo, like you just said, idea? At very first glance, you would know this is not a kid's thing.
Yeah.
Finger Family was fucked up in the sense that it very much seems like a kid's thing, and then all of a sudden this shit is in there.
Yeah, so it's a really weird phenomenon, and again, because it's the internet, people started actually making these videos, and they spread around on the internet so that people could look at it and be like, oh, look, it is a thing that exists. It's justified that we're having these conversations about whatever.
I feel like a responsible person.
Which, again, is very much not the case, because so you've said it before, and I don't want to steal the words that you've said in our conversations about this.
Okay.
But we legit live in a time where people can say this kind of shit. Like, oh, here's an urban legend.
Yes.
And then make it a reality.
Yeah, what I said was, and this is part of the post on Instagram that I did about the whole thing, is, like, the difference between, like, now and, like, when our parents grew up is, like, we have the internet, everything is at our disposal, people can make a lot more with a lot less now. And just a tiny bit of know-how. And, like, things that would have just been stories told around a campfire, you know, when our parents were kids, now can be made to seem like it has teeth and it's real. Like,
or to be made real.
Exactly. Like, I remember, like, this one thing my dad told me once. I don't know why it stands out in my head, but my dad told me this story one time about, like, he was at camp or something, and they were sitting around a campfire, and they made up this story about this, like, this grizzly bear with, like, you know, who, like, specifically hunted, like, camp kids, and they called him Grizz and all that stuff. Like, if I wanted to take that now and, like, do a video showing evidence that Grizz exists or something like that, like, I could do that.
Yeah.
You know, like, even something like that doesn't have this piece of artwork that looks kind of creepy, so I can't just point it out and be like, see, that's Grizz. Like, I could show, like, deep grooves in a wall that I created and just film it and be like, yeah, see, this is what it is. And it'll spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And it's not just
like,
a camp story anymore.
And again, like, it doesn't even have to be, like, it doesn't even have to be good evidence. Like, if it's real to one person, then it becomes a reality.
As
that's
Bigfoot will teach you.
No. Bigfoot is bullshit. But when people make these stories on the internet, like these creepypastas and stuff like that, if one person makes it real to one person, then it becomes a thing. And while we've had this conversation before off the podcast, but like the Slenderman girls, the girls who, like, stabbed their friend 19 times trying to summon Slenderman.
Yeah.
We all know that Slenderman's not a real thing.
Yeah.
We all know that, like, it's a creepypasta and it started off as, like, a photo contest. Like, we know that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, there's an HBO documentary that is fantastic about that whole thing. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I highly encourage everybody to watch it, because it is the way they break down the story and go into, you know, what Slenderman is and, like, how this happened. You know, it's really, really well done. But yeah.
But like I said, we get into like a situation where, like, with those girls, they thoroughly and openly believed that because of some of the stuff that they had seen on the internet, that this was real.
Yeah.
And yes, like, I get it. Like, after that, like, a lot of people are like, oh, we need to be, like, super cautious about these kind of things on the internet, and we need to, like, have our kids, like, we have to watch over them whenever they're doing things on the internet, which is a conversation that, yes, we've needed to have for a long time.
But that's the thing. Yes, that should be happening. But also, like, some people take it to a point, like, one of my biggest pet peeves, as far as, like, ARGs and stuff, is, you know, when I'm watching, like, either a video, like, a series online that is very, or at least to, like, most people, very obvious that this is, you know, it's just a story that somebody is telling. It happened a lot on Twitter with The Sun Vanished. Like, there are people who'll be like, that didn't happen, or, like, this isn't real, and, like, will just ruin the immersion, or, like, they'll see people playing along and, like, asking questions or whatever, like, did you do this thing that you said you were gonna do, or, like, what happened? And, like, they'll think, oh, I'm gonna help all of these people, and I'm gonna answer, well, no, they didn't do that, because this is fake. Thank you! Like, we didn't know that. Like, yeah. You know, and I think that some people either really believe that people are stupid and believe in this stuff, or they just don't understand the concept of making a story, which is another thing about this day and age with the internet. With a little bit of know-how, anybody can do this shit now. You know?
Yeah, I know people.
Yeah.
Right now, who fully 100% believe in the Momo challenge, and that it's a real thing that's going on.
Yes.
And I'm not going to get into too much detail, but hopefully this person in particular is not listening to this podcast, but if you ever do, this is a call-out post.
I don't think they are, knowing who this person is. Not knowing them personally, but knowing
again,
who they are.
This is a call-out post.
Yeah.
But they fully believe that this is like a supernatural thing.
Yeah.
That like is spreading around the internet and is affecting children.
Here's the thing though, like I just said about like, you know, oh, thank you, like, you know, like, why do people just assume that everybody that's participating in this is stupid and doesn't realize that it's like, I want to be very clear, I'm talking about like people over the age of like even 14.
Yeah.
You know, like, and because like kids will believe shit. Like,
yeah.
Like I talked I think it was our second episode that we talked about like things that scarred us as kids, and I talked about the Langoliers. Like, one of the things that scarred me about the Langoliers was Bronson Pinchot in that movie, because I didn't have an understanding of the concept of actors, and that, like, just because you see somebody be one way in a movie doesn't mean that they actually are that way, or doesn't mean that that's the only character that they play. You know? So I saw him as this, you know, really sweet, funny guy from, what'd you call it? I forget the name of the show now. Shit. But I saw him as Balky, and I didn't see him as this asshole that he played in the Langoliers. And then all of a sudden I see this guy who is like my favorite be this royal asshole and like almost get this girl killed, and I'm like, what the hell? You know, so like, kids, like, here's the thing. Like we were just talking about with, like, needing to have a conversation about, you know, internet safety and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, like, if you have regular conversations with your kids, if you put your computer in a high traffic area where you can check in on them occasionally and look over their shoulder at what they're doing and stuff like that, like that's the thing. Like, my parents were very incredibly, like, restrictive with a lot of things. Like, I remember I had to argue with my mom like, I was in high school and she had parental controls on my AOL account, and I had to argue with her to take them off because she was like, because I was like, none of my friends have this on, and she was like, oh, well, she did the parent thing of, oh, well, if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you? And I'm like, okay, but part of the reason why we got the internet was to help me do research and do my homework, and I can't even get onto Neopets. Like, it's blocking me from getting onto Neopets. Like, what do you think it's gonna do when I try to go onto National Geographic? And it's not gonna let me on because there's nudity on National Geographic. Like, you know, it was blocking me from shit. So, like, there, like I was saying before, like, there is a line that is excessive, but I feel like if you have, like, regular conversations with your kids, put your computer in a high traffic area, you know, like, you should know what your kid is doing online anyway.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to find out like this, like, that there is this threat, like, real or perceived. And,
well, again,
like, have to sit your kid down and be like, so what's this about?
My thing is, like I was saying, about the person, like, for them, they were like, oh, well, I heard that it's a thing that, like, as you're watching a YouTube video, like, you can be watching one video and it'll just pop up and start playing over another video, and it's putting kids into trances. And one of my friends at work showed me it, and you know, and I was like, okay, whenever you watch the video, did it make you want to kill people? And they were like, no. And I was like, well, whenever you watch the video, did it put you in a trance? No, but I hear it only affects kids. And I was like, well, that's real convenient, isn't it?
I remember
that it's a thing that, like, it only affects children, so can't be verified by a parent.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, I remember after a couple of days having a conversation about this one person and what they were saying about all of this stuff and how angry you got at one point during your conversation.
I am still infuriated
Yeah.
because they think that it's a supernatural thing.
But, like,
that it's
I actually asked
you.
you, I was like, do they also believe that if you watch these videos, Momo shows up and kills you in the middle of the night? Like,
well, see, this is why whenever, like, so we were also, like, super not supposed to do the whole, like this person fully believes in, like, the Bloody Mary and Candyman stuff. Like, it's really fucking dumb. But, yeah, like, there's it's one of those things where, like, they fully believe that this is a, like, supernatural video that's just popping up and affecting children, and it's, like, seeking out kids that, like, it thinks that it could trick into doing it, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, yes, we do need to have a conversation about internet safety.
yeah.
You know, and that is a thing that has needed to happen for a while, right?
Yes.
But we don't need to have the conversation, and I really hate the fact that the conversation, or the reason that this conversation has even popped up in the first place, is because you believe that there is a fucking supernatural video that's seeking out weak children to make them kill their family and kill themselves.
So,
like,
I remember I sent you the video of this, but there was this, like, when I first heard about all of this shit, it reminded me so much of this, like, SNL skit from, like, there was a time where Emma Stone was the host, and, like, they did this skit about, like, you know, like, news stories that, like, sensationalize all this shit that isn't actually happening. And
teenagers are souping.
Yeah,
They're
it's
drinking
called
expired soup
to get
high.
And, you know, and it would go to Emma Stone, who's playing the teenager, who's like, that nobody is doing that. Like, how do you even get high with soup? And then it would go to her mother.
But they are.
Yeah, and it would go to her mother, and she'd be like, oh my god, we gotta get rid of all the soup. Like, and yeah, that's an exaggeration, you know, but that's the thing.
But
like,
that's what
even,
happens in
yeah,
real life with
but
some
even
of these
parents,
people.
Even my parents, like, part of why I brought up the whole, like, super restrictive, had to have an argument so I could do my homework and get these stupid restrictions taken off, because AOL parental controls are overkill, like, but that's beside the point. Excuse me. But, like, part of the reason I brought them up is because, and I had this discussion with my brother when he first told me about all of this. I was like, you know, like, say what you want about our parents, but they'd look at this and be like, oh, that's total bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, but unfortunately, like,
yeah,
there are, like, they do have a bunch of stupid ass fucking reports on, like,
yeah,
I texted you recently,
yeah,
about, like, they had a big expose on, like, CBD gummies and stuff, being
oh
like,
my god, yeah, and Dr. Oz, that fucking shill.
being like, oh, they're advertised as all of the benefits of marijuana without the high, except that it does give you the high. And then Dr. Oz is like, yeah, like 0.2 milligrams of this can give you the same, or give a grown man the same high as blah blah blah. And I was like, no, like, that's absolutely not true.
Yeah,
like,
okay, so
but it's really dumb, and you get people, like, looking at this and being like, well, it's on the news, so it must be true.
yeah,
And that's one of the arguments that this person had with the whole Momo thing. They were like, oh, well, the news outlets are picking it up, so it has to be a real thing that's happening. And it was like, no,
yeah.
that it's not, though.
But that's the
Except
thing.
that it's not. I live on the internet, and then
Yeah.
to get this whole, like, well, how do you know? Are you an expert on the situation? How do you know so much about it? And me being like, I run a podcast where we talk about weird things and creepy things, so I've done my research on it.
I remember when you told me, like, how horrified this person was that you even researched this.
Yeah, they were like, well, how do you know so much about it? Like being like, oh, it's gonna come after you kind of thing, like freaking out because I had done research on the topic, and I was like, no, like I run a podcast where we talk about this sort of thing, and we're doing an episode about it. So I definitely have done my research. It was so stupid, and it is so stupid. It's not a real thing, but there are so many people who like fully believe that it's real, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
We get told by our parents a lot, and by the older generation, to like, don't believe everything that you read on the internet, everything that you hear on the internet's not true, don't believe it. And then they're the same fucking people to turn around and do the same thing because they heard it on the internet, or they watched a video, or Fox News happened to say something about it, so it has to be real. And it's not, though.
Yeah.
And when we tell you that it's not, they're like, well, how do you know? Are you an expert on the topic? Yes, I live on the internet. I am an expert on the topic.
But I mean, like, also, it's like, anything is scarier when it's happening to kids.
I mean, yeah.
Like part of the reason why I wrote Mr. Sweetly the way I did was because everything is scarier when it's kids, because there's this sense of, you know, like, these are these tiny little creatures that, you know, either don't know any better yet, or can't protect themselves yet, and like, it's our job as the adults to protect them, and what if we can't protect them, you know? So it's like, and it's fucking scary. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's why I don't like zombie content. Yeah. It's why I don't like zombies at all. Like, I can't stand, like, I know people who are like, oh, you know, zombies are really cool, and I know people who are also like, I can't wait for there to be a zombie apocalypse, which is a completely different can of worms.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Okay, so
but
I'm gonna say this once. However you think you're gonna be in the zombie apocalypse, you're not gonna be in the zombie apocalypse.
Well, so I keep having to have the argument of, like, with these people of, like, hey, you know, the whole, like, zombie thing is, like, the modern zombie, the way we see it, was, like, literally, like, a story that came out of the brain of George Romero, and it's not real. And, and what we perceive as, like, the modern zombie was, like, a metaphor for consumerism. But you know what, you do you. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like,
all right, Tyler Durden,
I don't like I really don't like zombie content, because people like to use, like, oh, it's happening to, like, oh, this kid got killed by a zombie and now they're a zombie, and they like to use that as, like, shock value.
Yeah.
There is a there's a mission in Dying Light where you're going through a hotel and you just keep hearing, like, a child crying, and when you get there, it's a little zombie kid. And you have to shoot and kill it. It's all for shock value, because it's like, oh my god, it's happening to a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand zombie shit because of that reason. So yes, you're right. It is a thing that's scarier when it's happening to kids, and I get that. But also at the same time, this is a ridiculous notion that there is some weird supernatural, like, ghost video, Ring Part 2, I guess, that's going around on the internet and focusing on children to get them to kill their family and themselves. Like, it's really dumb. Yeah. Like, which, by the way, The Ring was also fake. Like,
spoiler alert. Way to go ruin another movie.
I'm sorry, but you know, I gotta put it out there just in case there are people who think that the Ringu video is real and gonna kill them if they watch it. You can watch it, it's fine. It was made by Japanese people, it's all right. Yeah. Okay.
This is like people and not some supernatural entity. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I feel like, and I don't want to come across like I'm being judgmental or trying to tell people how to parent, because that's not at all what it is.
I'm being judgmental.
Well, well, for reasons you have every right to, and we're not getting into that.
But, yeah, we're definitely not, but...
Yeah, but for reasons, I don't begrudge you this. But yeah, like, I can understand hearing about this at first and being like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? But, like, for every sensationalist, like, news story or article out there, there are far more that are logical and breaking it down and telling you what it is. You know?
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like if you actually... Okay. Especially because of this one person that infuriated you about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's this, I forget what the actual term is called, but, like, there's this thing that when you believe, you see it a lot with people, confirmation bias, that's what it's called, confirmation bias. You see it a lot with people who are super heavy into conspiracy theories. Like there's this guy in the MMA world. His name is jiu-jitsu is more his thing, but like Eddie Bravo is his name, and he is known for being a huge conspiracy theorist. And like there's this thing that he does where, like, you know, if you show him proof that what he's saying isn't true about whatever it is, you know, like the moon landing, flat earth, whatever the case is, like, if you show him undeniable proof that he is not correct about a thing, he'll be like, oh, okay, well then explain to me this YouTube video that I found that says all of these things that I believe. And that's basically what it is. It's like confirmation bias, for anybody out there not familiar with the concept, is that if you believe something, for example, this person that we keep referencing believes that Momo is this, you know, supernatural being that can, you know, like, single out kids and try to trick them into doing these things and take over a YouTube video that you're watching and, like, you know, tell you to kill your family and show up in the middle of the night to get you if you even look into it. Like, for starters, that's ridiculous. But, you know, like, when this person heard that you were doing research, none of the research that you brought to this person and were like, okay, well then, what about this? What about this? Was getting through. But the video that their friend showed them on YouTube that seems legit, that's what they were like, oh no, but I've seen it. I know it's real. That's what that is. It's, instead of doing actual research and being diligent, you go out and you find things that confirm your belief rather than maybe question it a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I told this person, I was like, look, like, if you had done like 0.2 seconds of research, this would be a completely different conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah.
But instead, you took something at face value without actually thinking about it or questioning it or anything else like that, and started wildly believing in it just out of nowhere and for no reason, when it's very obviously not real. And like you said, I mean, confirmation bias is a very, very, very weird thing, and I don't know why. Like, I don't understand it personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you show someone something and go, you know, these are all the reasons that this can't be a real thing, and this is the artist who made the statue and has said that it's not real, and this is the person who made the original thing on the internet and has said that it's not real. Like, it's to the point now that the original artist of the Momo thing destroyed their work.
Which I wanted to bring up because, like, that honestly hurt. Like, that hurt me to see that.
Like, yeah, they destroyed the statue because it gotten to a point on the internet where people had taken it so far that they were just like, I can't.
But, like, what he said about it, like, broke my heart. That he destroyed it so this way, like, so parents could tell their kids that they're safe.
Yeah.
You know, like, that, I mean, like, I've been, as you have as well, and, like, many of the people we know, like, I've been a creative person my whole life. You know, I couldn't imagine feeling the need to destroy something that I put so much time and effort and heart into because somebody else made it into something else entirely.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like yeah. I can imagine that, like, the people who made things like, I guess, like, the whole Slenderman thing, like, I can imagine that after that whole scenario happened that the people who, like, originally made the Slenderman thing felt awful.
Oh, yeah.
And I really hate that we currently live in a time and in a situation where that can be a thing that happens to somebody. Where they're just like, oh, well, this thing that I created because I had a bit of creativity. Can you imagine that, like, after the whole Slenderman thing happened, that, like, if you know, they were like, oh, we're just going to have to, like, delete and get rid of everything Marble Hornets related.
Yeah.
Because
that's
of what happened.
It's like, it's one thing if you see something online and you're like, oh, this was based on, like, an actual urban legend that exists. Or whatever. You know, like, so, like, I really hate to keep bringing up my own work, but it's relevant. I'm sorry. It's, so, like, there's a fan film for Mr. Sweetly on YouTube. And when I was contacted about it to see if it was okay for them to do it, I'm friends with the filmmaker now. Hi, Noah. But, like, one of the things that he said was that, like, he and his kids are super into all this creepy stuff, so they look into it together. You know, like, they watch, like, all these horror movies and stuff, like, they do it together. So, like, he's very aware of what his kids are consuming as far as this shit is concerned. You know, but, like, one of the things that he said was, like, he thought it was, like, a real story that somebody was, like, posting of, like, you know, like, a thing that, like, you know, a story that had been told, like, with, you know, like, in a school, like, this was an urban legend within this school or whatever, and then somebody, like, wrote about it, or, you know, somebody claimed to have had a paranormal experience. Like, I can understand that, but to, like, you know, to think that this piece of artwork is going to show up in your house, you know, like, there's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
But no, I mean, like, legitimately, I felt awful whenever I read that and was like, yeah, like, they completely and totally just got rid of it.
Yeah. Because
some shit dicks on the internet. Like, I guess, you know, it's really dumb.
Yeah.
And it's really dumb that it's gotten to a point where, like, that this is a thing that is occurring.
Yeah.
that people are making real, like, videos and being like, oh, see, it's totally real. And like I was saying before, like, whenever I was talking about, like, I did all this research and everything else, I did get, like, from this person, like, oh, well, it's on the internet. You gonna believe that? You gonna believe that research that you found on the internet? Okay. What I'm talking about's on the news, so it's more valid than what you read on the internet about it, and whether or not it's real on the internet. And I'm like, but it came from the internet.
Yeah.
This whole thing came from the internet.
Yeah. And
So the internet would be the one that would know about it, A, and B, you're believing something that came from the internet, but not believing my proof that came from the internet.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna say who it is, but there's somebody that I know in my life who is a wonderful, sweet, caring, compassionate human being. I adore this person. But like, I used to, not so much anymore, but like, I sometimes, like, back when I had my last job, like, I would wake up some mornings to get ready to go to work, and I'd like check my phone and everything, like, while I was still waking up before I got out of bed, and you know, like, I would have gotten a thing about, like, one of them that I remember very well was that there were these drinks that were getting imported that were actually poison, and if you see them, like, don't buy them because they're actually poison. And like, and every time I got one of these things, and it was like, you know, spread this so this way everybody knows, and like, you know, you could save a life and all that stuff. And like, this person would send a lot of these kinds of things, and every time I got one, like, and this is me at like 5:30 in the morning, groggy as shit. I'm not a morning person to begin with. My first reaction was, all right, let me Google this. And I would Google it, and I would find sources that would be like, you know, okay, so this is what's being said, but this is actually what's going on. You know, and it's like, again, we live in a day and age where we can just type some words into our computer and have information sent to our eyeballs.
Hell, our phone. We can type it into our phone and have information. Like, soon we're just going to be able to put a chip in our brain.
Exactly. Like, and that's the thing. It's, you know, and I remember that one particular case, what was actually happening. It was, I don't remember the brand of drink, but it was something that was that was starting to be sold at Starbucks locations, I think. And there were these kind of like fruity drinks. And what had happened was a woman was caught not stealing drinks, but trying to put drinks on the shelves. And they found that she had poisoned like 2 bottles of this stuff and were trying to put it on the shelf, like, to hurt people. This is one person, very sick person who did this. And, like,
I mean, that's like
and it was just 2 bottles. It's not that it's being imported and it's actually poison. It was one person who, you know, and when I say one very sick person, I'm not trying to be like, you know, oh, you know, like, crazy equals bad and like blah blah blah, and like, you know, mental health issues are bad or whatever, because, you know, I have a whole host of them myself. What I mean is that clearly this person has something going on and needs help for it, and this was something that they did to kind of, I guess...
That's like the Tylenol thing. That's the reason that we have, like, tamper-proof things on Tylenol and all that kind of stuff to, like, heat wrap, because people were poisoning it. It like, was, opening bottles and putting poison in it, and a lot of people died, and it got to a point where they were like, oh, we have to put tamper-proof shit on everything, and if it's broken, don't buy it.
Which, I mean, always sucks that it takes something like that for people to, implement safety measures. But, like, I remember, I don't remember if I was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school when this happened. There was this intersection by a different high school where, like, people got, like, straight up hit by cars a lot. And, like, 2 kids died before they did anything about it and put a stop sign there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so the Tylenol thing was a thing that actually, like, for really reals happened.
Yeah.
And that's the reason that we have, like, on all of our food, for the most part, and stuff like that, that we have, like, tamper-proof stuff. And if people, like, if it's open, don't buy it. Like, So that's a real thing, but whenever you're like, oh well, all of these drinks are poison, don't buy them or what, like that's stupid.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like, they're like, it was imported from I don't even remember where it said it was imported from, but it was like, these are imported drinks and they're actually poison and they're not real drinks and blah blah blah. And like, just a tiny bit of research told me not to. And like, when you hear stuff like that, maybe not that one, because that one seemed a little bit too grand scale for me, but like, I saw this other one that it actually kind of scared me, and the reason it scared me was because, like, not the thing itself scared me, although it did, but I did research on it, I didn't spread misinformation, but like, there was there was this, story going around about like this clear parasite that they found in some like water bottles or whatever, and like, and they showed what it looked like outside of the bottle, and like, for starters it was gross because I know I've mentioned I have a real bad aversion to fish, and it looked like just this really long clear fish with like fish eyes and shit, but like, so I saw this and I was like, uh-oh, because like I just downed a water bottle before, let me see if this is true. And of course it wasn't. And one of the very first things that I found was like, one of the very first things on the list was an article talking about how there's misinformation being spread and this didn't actually happen, but like, the reason I say it scared me is because the person whose Facebook page I saw it on was a nurse. Like, this is somebody in the medical field. Like, you would think that at least somebody, like, who deals with health would, instead of sharing the story, would look it up and be like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
And, like, that one, except, like, that one is way more in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the reason why I went, oh, shit, like, at first, because that one seems plausible.
Or the people who, like, found a rat in their monster or whatever. Yeah. That wasn't a real thing.
I didn't hear about that at all.
Wasn't a real thing, yeah.
I mean, I love Monster Energy, so if you want to sponsor us, Monster, please. But,
no, there was like a whole like thing where this guy had found like a rat in his Monster Energy. Like, he opened it and the can was sealed, but it had a rat in it.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I was younger and didn't have ready access to internet, because very quick story time, I didn't have internet for many years, unless
you had dial-up, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, which
for a really long time.
Yeah. When I was with I was with somebody at the time, and they were showing me this webcomic that they were trying to get me into, and there was a joke about dial-up, and they looked at me and they were like, haha, isn't that funny? And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, no, it's not, because I still have dial-up. The look of sympathy that I got, like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And that was just even 6 years ago that I didn't have internet. Like, I'm not talking about like I'm not talking about like the 90s and early 2000s. I am talking about like even just 6 years ago. I did not have access to the internet at all unless I was at a friend's house or school or, the library or something like that. I had to physically go to places. So it was far more likely for me to share something like that when I saw it. Also because, when I was younger, like, I didn't have the wherewithal to be like, oh man, like, I remember one thing that I shared, and like, it just randomly popped into my head the other day, and I was like, man, if I had only done research, was this thing that, like, people were sticking needles and, like, gas handles, like, at gas stations to try to, like, infect people or whatever. And, like, I shared that because I was like, oh man, that's super fucking scary. And, like, me now would have been like, I don't think so, and look it up. You know? But, like, but that's the thing. It's like, the world is literally at our fingertips at every turn. All we have to do is type some words into a bar. You know? And it's like, unless it's a confirmation bias situation. Like, you don't want to know exactly what's going on because you are so, like, dead set in what you believe that, you know, nothing is going to, like, I've had that before. Where, like, I had somebody once, I won't even get into it or whatever, what it was, but, like, I had somebody once who, like, strongly disagreed with me on a thing and printed out an article from a very biased website and, like, handed it to me and was like, well, you should read this. And, like, I was going to take it and read it, but, like, they were also just kind of standing there and expecting me to read it right then and there. And, fun fact, I have reading issues. It takes me a while to read. So I just was like, yeah, I gotta tell you, my guy, one article is not going to change my mind. You know, and especially considering it was from a very biased source.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, and I gotta, oh, well, that's real sad. And I was like, yeah, it is. I walked out. But, like, you know, it's one thing if, like, you know that the source is incredible. Isn't credible. Let me be clear. That's what I said. If you know that that's the deal. Or if it's just one piece of evidence. But, like, there's so many things out there that are very credible sources with experts, with people like you and I, mostly you, that are always on the internet, that are trying to tell people, no, this is what's really going on. And you still have this one person in your life, and there are many people like this person, going like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, that's different. Fucking Momo, man. I mean, the other funny thing for me is that, like, when I first heard the name of this thing, I cracked up because, like, when I was growing up, like, my parents would be like, yeah, Momo, sometimes with us, like, it meant, like, dingus or whatever. So, like, when I heard that, I was like, oh, childhood, hi.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, it's ridiculous to me that this is a thing that's happening. And I just want to state again for the record, let the record show that I am 100% telling you it's not real to believe it. I promise. There's not going to be a weird, like, bug-eyed, smiley face thing that comes in your house and kills you. I promise.
Yeah, and that wasn't even the name of the, like, that was just the name that the internet gave this thing.
Yeah, it was the thing that the internet gave this thing. Like, it
was like Chicken Lady or something like that. It was the name of the actual art piece.
Yeah. The internet came up with the whole Momo-chan because they wanted to give it some kind of... It was either a Mexican or Japanese phone number. Nobody could tell its origin, and if you, like, texted it or whatever...
It's pretty easy to figure out a number's origin, actually.
Yeah, but they were like, well, nobody knows if it's actually, like, a Mexican number or a Japanese number, but if you text it, it'll text you a whole bunch of stuff and tell you to kill your family, and it'll come to your house and kill you. And give you a whole bunch of tasks to do, and if you don't do them in a requisite amount of time, it'll murder you to death, and it was really dumb.
Oh my god. Wait, hold up. Momo, you want me to do your chores for you? That's what this is about?
Yeah.
There are easier ways, just ask for help.
I need you to wash the dishes.
Oh, I would die immediately. I fucking hate doing the dishes. Like, I don't do the dishes for me, Momo. I'm not doing the dishes.
Well, I mean, the thing is it's not even like Momo's being like, come to my house and do my dishes for me. It's just do the dishes.
This is like extreme Chibi Robo.
Like, Momo, why are you, like, threatening me to do my chores? This isn't cool.
Momo, I get it. I'm a mess, but threatening to kill me? Come on, that's a bit excessive. Oh,
anyway,
yes.
I think that's all the time we've got for this episode.
Probably.
Holy shit.
Oh, God.
But before we go, we wanted to take a moment to thank our wonderful friends over at the Fierce Ferret website for allowing us to put our show up on your website and hosting us. It's great. We finally got all the stuff fixed, so we're back up on Spotify and Google Play and all that good stuff. So that's great. But thank you guys so much for allowing us to be hosted on your site. You can find them over at twitch.tv/fierceferrets. Brain went real weird. Or at fierceferrets.com.
It was Momo.
She did it to me.
Story confirmed. I think you owe a real big apology to somebody.
Oh no, the Momo got me. I caught the Momo.
The Momo.
But yeah, they do wonderful streams and stuff. I have been playing some games with them a lot recently, and they're wonderful. You can also find us in other projects with them. We have The Last Light, which will be coming back soon-ish.
Yes.
But
well, it is back. It's just we had.
Yeah, we're on a bit of a hiatus temporarily.
I said don't date the episode, Deacon.
I know. I'm not dating it. I'm just letting you know that we're temporarily
spraying you with water after this.
Well, I also know that you're expediting this episode, so it doesn't matter.
No, I'm not. This is episode 17, my dude.
Shush. But anyway, yeah, so Last Light will be going back up. I've been kind of lazy and haven't edited the episodes yet. So those will be up soon.
Well, maybe by the time this airs.
Probably, maybe. We'll see. And then so we have The Last Light, where I play as Rix, and Jack plays Reese.
Yeah.
And we also have Drunk Fandom, which is also coming back soon.
Yes.
But thank you so much to them for having us and all of their stuff. They're wonderful, wonderful human beings.
Also, as always, a reminder that you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. The handle is the same, at the COTV podcast. Yeah, so we post like a lot of, like sometimes we post polls, sometimes we give you updates and stuff. That's really the best place to find like on the spot updates for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, if you have any ideas for future content, please send it to us, because we run out of things to talk about all the time and have to have brainstorming.
Because there won't always be Momos.
There won't always be Momo.
Yeah.
I give it another like week or two and she'll be dead forever.
She already is.
Yep.
Press F to pay respects.
But yeah, so if you have any ideas for future episodes, just shoot them our way. We have a couple episodes like that we've been suggested, and we will eventually get to those.
Yes.
But yeah, we decided, since this was the thing that was going on right now, we'd talk about it.
This episode was also technically suggested to us by my brother Reaper, who, when he found out, he was like, what is this bullshit? And he just sent us a bunch of articles and was like, here, this is your realm of things, talk about it.
Yeah. So a huge thank you to Reaper for giving us this stuff that we could just num. But also we have a Patreon and a Coffee now.
Yeah.
You can find the links for those. I believe they're on our Twitter and Instagram.
They are on our Twitter. Our Twitter, the pin tweet is the links to both of those things, and on Instagram, our link in our bio is our Patreon.
And speaking of, we would like to take a moment and give a huge special thanks to our two like $5 sponsors, our patrons on Patreon, Gerda and Brandonson. You guys are wonderful. And we'd also like to thank anybody else who is either silently supporting us or is like in any other tier or anything else.
Yes.
We appreciate you and we love you lots. You're wonderful.
There are so many ways to be supportive without giving money, because a lot of times people get like, you know, they feel bad or whatever, but like the fact that you're listening to us ramble about a stupid chicken lady that got turned into a creepypasta, and you keep coming back despite the fact that we're talking about a stupid chicken lady.
Despite the fact that we're idiots.
Oh my god, we're the biggest idiots. But like, yeah, the fact that you keep coming back and listening to us and, you know, support us in that way is just, it also means so much to us. Yes. Yeah.
But we love you guys lots, and we will see you guys in the next episode. And until next time, sweet dreams.
Bye.